Hampshire primary, I warned Democrats that they didn't have much time. Bernie won New Hampshire and won huge in Nevada, and then old Joe Biden won big in South Carolina on Saturday. Remember, winning Iowa, which Pete Buttigieg did by a hair, meant absolutely nothing. He dropped out last night. And Klobuchar today, of course, she's gone, both endorsing Biden. Now, tomorrow is Super Tuesday, and the moderates, they're out of time. For the progressives, it's Sanders and Warren, and in the moderate lane, Bloomberg and Biden. Because of early voting, which we conservatives have always been against, Biden's Joe-mentum may be blunted. Bernie's followers were jacked up very early in this whole process, and if Biden does, let's say he does really, really well, better than expected tomorrow, well, Bernie's at that point in real trouble. The Beltway media will work to write off Bernie completely and quickly. But if it turns out the way most people think and Bernie does well tomorrow, enormous pressure will be brought to bear on Bloomberg to drop out to help Biden out, and frankly also on Warren to drop out to help Bernie finish off Biden. And then prominent elected Democrats, they're going to begin lining up for their choice. Now, even if they manage to pull off this Biden rescue effort, the question is, can Biden himself really withstand the rigors of a grueling campaign? He seems to be having a lot of trouble lately. And it's pretty apparent that if Biden wins the nomination and somehow beat Trump, heaven forbid, he'd just be a figurehead president doing whatever Washington wants. And then the swamp wins again. It will be donors who set the policy on China and immigration, and then throw a bone to the hard left. They'll get to pick the judges. A power coalition from hell, if you ask me. Now, what we're seeing is the beginning of the Democrat establishment's rebellion against the will of its own voters. They don't want Sanders, a socialist, to get the nomination, despite the fact that he's the front runner in the polls and has won 2 of the last 4 primaries and caucuses. But what's happening to Bernie, you think about it, is somewhat similar to what the GOP establishment tried to do to Trump back in 2016. They hated him. They tried their hardest to rally the party around Jeb Bush. But that dog wouldn't hunt. Jeb dropped out after South Carolina, even after George W., Nikki Haley, and Lindsey Graham all tried to stop Trump there. But guess what? Donald Trump won anyway. And then Marco Rubio, he dropped out after Florida. Lost that. That was his home state. Then Kasich flopped. Yeah, I know you'd forgotten about him, right? Well, he flopped everywhere except Ohio, but he hung on until he lost all credibility. It was so bad for him that he didn't even speak at the RNC, which was held in the state in which he's governor. But watching everything play out over the last 72 hours or so, it's clear that the Democrat machine is trying desperately to claw back power from the radicals that they let run free in Washington for the last year. They made huge mistakes underestimating the power of the AOC crowd over the last year. And of course, the Democrat establishment, they're not helped by the fact that it has a terribly weak candidate in Joe Biden. It was easier to defeat Bernie last time, even as Hillary Clinton was physically collapsing in public. It's far more difficult to prop up Biden now, who is mentally collapsing in public.
Tomorrow's Superstar Tuesday. I was waiting for a black man to pick me up and take me a total of 147 miles south to Washington, D.C., to be sworn in as President and Vice President of the United States of America. We hold these truths to be self-evident. All men and women created by you know the thing.
All right, Chuck. Thank you very much.
All right. It's Chris, but anyway.
Chris. I just did Chris. No, I just did Chuck.
The fact is, most of the excitement and the momentum is on the left, and it's behind Bernie. And it's reflected in the polls. Nationally, Bernie is polling 8 points above Biden, and his lead is even starker in most of the 14 states set to vote on Super Tuesday tomorrow. He's currently polling on average of 15 points ahead of everyone else in California, the state with the most delegates. Bernie's polling ahead in 8 of the 14 states set for tomorrow. Meanwhile, Biden leads in just 4 states. And in 2 of those states, North Carolina and Oklahoma, his lead is a very narrow one. And he's almost out of cash.
The problem is, a former vice president, two-term vice president, Obama's guy, should be just sucking in money. He's broke. That shows you there's a lack of enthusiasm, not just at the grassroots level where he would have needed that, but also at the top. He's not filling stadiums like a Bernie Sanders.
No, he's not filling stadiums. He's not even close. He'd be lucky to fill the local Elks Club. Just look at the massive crowds Bernie drew in California yesterday.
The establishment is getting very, very nervous. The corporate elite are getting nervous, and the political establishment is getting nervous as well. And some of the leaders in the Democratic establishment are saying, my God, look at the turnout here.
Meanwhile, Joe Biden, he's just relegated to, I don't know, after he wins in South Carolina, he did this little video that I saw on Twitter where he and Jill, his wife, were essentially begging for money.
South Carolina, like I said all the time, you're the launching pad. This is the biggest deal so far in this campaign. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you for your love and your kindness. And so we're going forward. So can you chip in $5, $10? Because we're going to power forward and win this race.
Won't you help, Joe? I mean, no, this was sad. The audio quality wasn't so great either, but it's just a presidential campaign. I was thinking about this tonight. Democrats, remember how they love to scream power to the people? But in the end, it may just be power to the donors, who are all pulling out all the stops to end Bernie's second quest for the presidency. And reports tonight say he's starting to bring in the cash. But Democrats should really learn the lessons of history. Biden is the new Jeb, except he's old and makes 0 sense. Both are kind of low energy, but nice guys with good resumes. Neither generate the type of excitement that successful candidates for the presidency usually need to have. The battle in November should obviously be Bernie Sanders versus Donald Trump, not Trump versus Obama nostalgia. If Obama's policies were so effective, Hillary would have glided past Trump in 2016. But Obama's policies didn't deliver the rising wages or business optimism that Trump's have. And for his liberal supporters, this failure has only driven them into the arms of a socialist. Americans deserve a real choice. Capitalism versus socialism. That's a choice. And letting people decide for themselves will tell us what the country thinks of Trump's America First conservatism versus Sanders' collectivism. May the best man, not the most influential block of donors, win. And that's the angle.